and a special what up do if you're listening on Blue Moon Radio today. Welcome to Radicals for Good, a podcast about the quiet revolutions unfolding around us. My name is Shayla, and we're here at Moondog Cafe, sending them gratitude for letting us use their space today. Radicals for Good is hosted on Wawiyat-Tanan, the lands of the Anishinaabe peoples, whose presence and resistance remains today. We acknowledge those that have resisted in the past and are currently resisting to make our city of Detroit possible. I'm here today with Francescha Lamarre, a Haitian chef and a lover of books as well, and a cultural organizer of the People's Book Club. We are going to talk about how reading is a radical practice and ways to build up communities with books and food. Welcome, Francescha.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So this episode's going to be a little different. We're going to talk through our lovely stack of books here. So we've created a top 10 reading list for people to dive into a radical practice. And we're going to talk about each book a little bit and then, have a discussion. I have questions for you and ready to dive in?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay.
This is a great way to start a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So coming in at number 10 is Rage Becomes Her. And so this book is really about women's rage and how we can use it as a practical action towards accomplishing goals, especially in movement spaces. I think that this book was extremely important to the beginning of my activism. I actually was gifted this by a mentor when I first started community organizing. And I think it's just taught me a lot about how to use my anger when society tells us, as women, to suppress it, Tell me a little bit about how you got into cultural organizing and activism.
Yeah, I think I would start at my more subconscious awakening came from rage. I think we're talking about a lot of us start there, and a lot of us are trying to figure out where to place this rage, what to do with it. A lot of times to stop feeling it or to push it away. And so I started as a young person really interested in the arts, and I was into fashion design. And I wanted to go to school in New York. I went to school at Pratt for a little while. Cool. But I just felt like the industry was so whitewashed, so many routes to being able to become a professional or prominent Black designer led to back to capitalism, and also a lot of just quiet silencing of designers of the diaspora. And I think it just started an awakening of how am I going to be this multiplicitous self? I grew up in a home that was very dynamic. My mom had a dance school. She taught in the arts, and still be my Black Caribbean self. And it just was not, the two worlds weren't meshing well. And so I was really angry. I went to a different art school, dropped out of school, and then immediately started an arts collective, or became a part of a budding arts collective. And I was able to really kind of have a space to talk about all of these things, all of these feelings, and organize spaces where we could uplift artists of color and of the diaspora in ways and in context to the city of Detroit. And so, that's kind of the budding form. So a lot of my activism did start in a femme collective, a femme space. And so rage, and also just feelings of fear, I think had a lot to do with the work that all of us were making at the same time. And also I think even beyond that, this place where femininity and masculinity, or masculinity on feminines being assigned these derogatory names. And together we kind of wanted to reorient what it meant to be a woman, and still have all of these attributes that are deemed powerful or brave or courageous or speaking out against the status quo, but still be regarded as femme.
Right.
And so, that's a little bit of intro.
Yeah, and it can be challenging to kind of break that barrier of, or even just to be perceived as angry, right? It's a very, in society, it's people perceive that as wrong, right? It's not okay for women or women presenting to be angry,
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, should we go to the next one? Okay, so number 9, we have Becoming Good Ancestors by David Ahrenfeld. I love this book because it's really wholesome, I think. It's about, so the subtitle is How We Balance Nature, Community, and Technology. And I think that sums it up so well, because it's like, it is really about balancing the modern day technology and how we want just like instant gratification, and how we balance being good ancestors and taking care of the land and taking care of our communities too. So he gives like really reasonable, feasible actions to take to like build up community.
Nice.
And I know that you have like this really, we talk a lot about ancestors on our podcast, and we've had quite a few episodes because they're really like a part of us, you know, especially if we're doing resistance work. And you have like this really tasty Haitian pop-up. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and maybe tell us who Ayiti is?
Yeah. So, thank you for the question. Ayiti means land of high mountains or flower of high land. It is the indigenous pronunciation and preferred way to describe the country of Haiti. And so it's Ayiti. It comes from Taino roots, which Taino are the indigenous folks of the island, specifically Haiti, but all across the Caribbean. And a lot of when we're talking about being good ancestors, principles come from Taino culture, come from indigenous practices, and being in right relationship with the land. And so for me, having all the creative like interests that I have, cooking and being able to nourish not just myself, but community, and also make Caribbean Haitian food an invitation to people of Detroit. I'm from Detroit, but like growing up in the city, there was never any Haitian restaurants to go to cling to find a community in here.
Yeah.
Haitian food for me was always consumed in people's homes. And so I wanted to provide this. I'm always coming from an intimacy politic. Wanted to find a way to provide this intimate connection to the culture of Haiti, specifically in the context of it being a political culture, but also like Detroit has been one of the most predominantly Black populated cities in the United States. And so I think just being able to take up space in this way to talk about the importance of the diaspora and all of the cuisines that make up that region, I was just like, it makes sense to call to the name of Ayiti. And so that is like ancestor work for me.
Yeah.
Not just like personal ancestors, but like I said, a generational conversation. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's been fun. I'm excited to do more.
Yeah.
And I think the most important pieces for me and the things that have like really highlighted why this work is necessary and it's good ancestor work is I've been able to meet so many different people in the city that I didn't know existed prior to the business of the diaspora of the Caribbean. And we've been collaborating, we've been having conversations, we've been coming together.
That's beautiful.
And then like people come from all over Ann Arbor. Like I've had people come from different places, and it's nice to just like see folks want to see themselves represented in this way.
Yes.
But then beyond that, want to share, want to be collaborators, want to help me, want to build things together. And like I think that's at the core of Ayiti, the core of Taino Haitian culture is to like come together, like to do things together, to not do things alone. And so yeah, I'm having a great time.
I love that. I love that. And like you have that that staple, like that food, right? That's bringing you together, bringing you literally to the table.
Exactly.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. Okay, I think you have next book.
Yeah, so
Also one of my favorites too.
So we have the Next American Revolution, Grace Lee Boggs, Detroiter, labor worker organizer. There's the Grace Lee Boggs School. A lot of principles in here I think often get remiss because there isn't a lot of like direction on like what to do next. I think a big component of this book is speaking to how we can be better ancestors, right? How to be in better relationship with the land, and how that relationship impacts the individual, and how the individual in turn heals the community. And so a lot of the conversations in this book really are going to speak to and help you to find like, who are your people, which I think is one of the most important organizing questions to ask yourself first. Like, who are your people? What are your issues? And how can we come together to solve those things together? How can we come together to struggle for those things together? And so this being like really early on and like organizing reading for me, it was really interesting to bring this back up because I'm like having to go in the back of my head to think about all of those beginning lessons in organizing, right? That are so important and that we sometimes forget as organizers because we can get so like deep entrenched in like this one issue and then we forget like, who are my people? What are we struggling for? Like, I think that's a question to always reorient yourself back to.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, Grace Lee Boggs is like amazing. I get really excited when I hear her come up in different books. Like I was reading Maroons by Adrienne Brown.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the characters in that book are kind of based off of Grace Lee Boggs and like her family. It's unmissable when you're reading these stories in speculative fiction to connect these points back to each other, which is another like aspect of good ancestor work, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and I consider Mama Gracie Boggs as one of my own like liberatory ancestors. And I think Adrienne Marie Brown also does too.
Yeah.
So it's really, it is really beautiful when you like come across, you're like, oh yeah, Mama Gracie Boggs is everywhere.
Everywhere.
And it's really profound to like see her legacy across the world, like lending herself and her knowledge and her experience to organizers everywhere. Ugh.
Absolutely.
I think also too, this was one of the first books that I read as an organizer as well. Like very early on, like I started when I was 15 and I remember this book piqued my interest because back then I was really focused on education and like young people. As a young person, I was like, we can make our education system better, right? And Mama Boggs talks a lot about education and how critical it is. And I think that's also why they have the school too.
That's amazing. Yeah. I remember I read the book, lost the book, which happens a lot for me. I think being someone that loves books, has a book club, I'm often loaning books to people and not getting them back, which is okay.
Same.
It's okay.
It's fine. It's okay.
I know I don't look okay, but it's okay. And that's a part of like, I think too, just like decolonizing, like individualism, wiping away, like these things aren't ours, like this is shared knowledge. But yeah, no, like, so that she came across a few times in points of organizing for me when I first read it. And then when I was traveling, doing some workshops, she came back across and I found the book and I was like, oh, okay, I can get it again. And I ended up reading it on that trip. And it was like, in the context of what I was doing, it was really interesting to read at that time. Because I had been such in an active artivism space and not so much in the organizing space that I started when I read the book, that it kind of, again, reoriented me back. And I think that's what books do, especially when you reread them. They reorient you back to the places that struck you the most when you first had that radical awakening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a book I need to actually go back to and read. Do you want to talk a little bit about like the difference between, you just used some terms that I think I need a refresher on myself, like artivism versus community organizing. Like, how would you describe the difference there?
I think artivism leans into the individual. I think community organizing in the title, right? It talks about more than just one person. And so I think you can be an artivist and you can be painting and making work and you can be speaking to issues, but you're having that conversation with yourself, right? Like if you're not making the work alongside other artists, if that art isn't if you're having art shows and there is no community workshop, there's no community conversation, not a panel. A panel is talking at people. And I think community organizing is much different, right? It goes beyond the scope of like literature and art. It goes into like, how are we in relationship to one another? How can we come together to solve this issue? And what does it look like to be in inconvenient space with someone else? I think art is a form of expression, right? So those are two things. I don't think the art itself is activism, right? It's a form of expression.
But it can be used.
It can be used. Yeah, it can be used as a tool,
but it's
as
not
active.
necessarily
The art
on
itself.
its own.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think too, what's so interesting about a lot of the books that we've picked here is that they all come from a similar like movement in time, right? Like a lot of them come from like the 1960s, 1970s, Black liberation, civil rights movement, which brings me to the next
amazing
series, which is Abbott. And I have two talking about the first one, or lending books that you might never see again. I can't find my first one. So there are three in this series, but who knows where she is. Right. But we hope whatever comrade has her is enjoying her very much. But Abbott is essentially about this investigative reporter, Elena Abbott, and it's a comic book or a graphic novel series, which is like something that I really enjoy reading. I like the art of it all. And Elena Abbott is investigating crimes that were done to particularly Black boys, and that police are ignoring or are a part of and ignoring during that time period. I also like it because it's radical because it has queer love lines as well and storylines. And I read a review yesterday and it was like someone's talking about Abbott being a protector of Black community. And it's just like a really interesting read. And it's like there's like a little bit of sci-fi in it too. So it's just like, if you like graphic novels and you're more visual, I feel like it's a good step.
No, that sounds really exciting. I really enjoy speculative fiction just because I love when I can leave a book with more questions than answers. I think that really like the process of reading is beyond just like enjoying a story or like learning something new. It's also how, again, we reorient how we're thinking. And so I think just the genre of sci-fi, or specifically for me, speculative fiction, really opens up that awareness.
Yeah. And I think too, like there's like a lot of history in it as well. Like I wish I had the first one because I could show you. There's like photos or drawings of Detroit landmarks within the graphic novel, but like based in 60s and 70s. And it's just so cool. As Detroiters, like you're just like, ha, yes. That's it.
No, I think a lot of the these books talk about Detroit, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We are Detroiters.
Yeah.
We love our city. That's all.
Yeah. It like also just being someone of Haitian descent, a lot of the books that I read, at least it's been really weird over the last, like I would say, year. Books that I didn't even choose, just like the books that have come up in book club. They reference Detroit and Haiti, which I think is really interesting. I think thinking about radicalism and the Black radical politic, I think you can't not talk about it without talking about those two places. And so, yeah, I don't know. This is really exciting.
No, and it's so true. And I was just thinking about it too. Like, you're right. We can't talk about liberation or Black liberation or anything without talking about Detroit, because it's such a prime example of radical and what it could look like. Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump to the next one. We have Nikki Giovanni's very first book, which is Black Feeling, Black Talk, Black Judgment. Nikki Giovanni holds a special place in my heart. I think she probably was the first book that was ever read to me, or like poet I've ever learned about. My mom loved Nikki Giovanni. And in her right, I think a lot because she's very similar to her. I think a lot of Black women relate to Nikki Giovanni. Specifically back to like we were talking about the rage, like having to mitigate your rage, having to soften it, turn it into art, make it something digestible, and having to walk around in that. I think it has a lot to do with how Nikki Giovanni navigated herself, her organizing. And this book just, I think, articulated all the aspects of like who Nikki Giovanni is, and was from a young age until, her eventual return. I was really sad. I actually got to meet Nikki. I could cry right now. I actually got to meet Nikki Giovanni the year before she passed.
Wow.
At our amazing Charles H. Wright Museum in Detroit. And yeah, I am still impacted a lot. It's actually really hard for me to talk about.
That's really spiritually grounded, isn't it?
Yes. And also just like the very first poem in this book is in reference to Detroit, right? So like you can't talk about Black radical politics without talking about Detroit. And I think it's just powerful and impactful to be someone that's Black from the city of Detroit and like see that manifest in so many ways and facets of the city.
Yes.
How we engage with arts, culture, media, the ways that we are reshaping our narratives in like spaces like these. Like it's really important and prominent to have this conversation in context to like media literacy. But Black Feeling, Black Judgment, iconic. I think she just was really cutthroat with her politics. She was clear with her position and where she stood. She was also critical of self, which I think is a big component of radicalism, right? It's like being aware that you're refusing to not look at what's wrong, to refusing to not see
Yeah.
To not see the issues, right? To reorient yourself back to the right relationship with the land, like speaking the truth. Like part of radical is like this root, this like foundational like ethics, right? Yeah. Like what does that mean? And like for this to be her first book, I think a lot of we're talking about being good ancestors. Some of us are like called into that work. Yeah. And, like I think historically, without speaking, she was called into that work, you know.
I have goosebumps. Cause like, yeah, like radical essentially means like grasping at the root, right?
Yeah. This is also a really rare book, so I usually have it in a sleeve. So I'm kind of doing something dangerous today. You took radical to have her out the sleeve. Wow. It's hard to find, so
we are gifted. We are gifted. Do you feel like Nikki has influenced your work? I know that
without a doubt.
You have that really cool documentary that I've seen a couple trailers about, and so please tell us about that. And because I want other people to watch it.
Nikki was a big part of that. I think in one of her poems, she talks about the duty to veil herself, right? The duty to see and put herself in the forefront and like really look at herself in the mirror, but also like across, right? Like she's often in conversation and comrades with other many prominent Black women writers, and like being able to hold a mirror to themselves is really important in their work. I think it touches on like a lot of the books that we're going to talk about today, particularly with me and like my work. I think it's just about being honest about positionality, about being honest about what are our fears, what are our foresights, and also like what does it mean to be a woman in this political climate, in this context? Like what does it mean to show up and to be shown up for, and like what do we ask of each other and of ourselves? And I think to be in constant conversation with the part of yourselves that you like don't get to share so publicly because of all of the things, right? Is a big part of like what inspired me about Nikki. Like she was unafraid to say the uncomfortable thing and then laughed afterward, or to like look at you very seriously afterward, right? Like I think that's another, thinking about people in the canon of, or people that she probably look up to, Zora Neale Hurston, like this ability to lean into my smile, but also to lean into like when I'm looking mean, and like that rage not becoming something that I'm like running away from, but running towards.
And just being our full, radical, truthful self.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I really want you to talk about your art too, because I hear like how influential Nikki's been in your art.
Yeah.
Tell us about Virago a little bit. Tell us about the process of making that. And
so Virago was a political art show that we threw to really kind of like deconstruct these archetypes that we're forced to create. Specifically, this was a film. So this was a film of a show that we did. The show featured 5 Detroit Black musicians. And so what we did was we built rooms and installations that encapsulated what their archetype was in the state of performance. And so thinking about gender in the state of performance, right? But thinking about it in a way of like an artist or an artivist, they're able to like take back that power because they're stealing back their time. They're stealing back the space where they get to be creative and expressive and create almost this world that they get to live and exist in. And so Virago was really speaking to that power dynamic that so often when ascribed to women is considered this negative thing. And so basically Virago is close in definition to the word, I don't know if y'all cuss on here, bitch. Like
we absolutely cuss on here.
Bitch or sassy or like, you know, dramatic.
Thank you.
Angry,
I was waiting for one of us to cuss.
Dominant.
Yeah.
Dominant. And so we really were like, a lot of my earlier work, specifically as it relates to artivism, was about the replacement of power and the refusal of like names put on us. And so that show was really, really special because it wasn't just like a film, it was a celebratory moment for many film Black artists in the city. We had DJ, like the DJ was also a part of it. So like the DJ had their own visual installation and room design. And it was just like this really fun experience, which I think goes back into like what femme spaces are at their core. They're like, how do we come together and continue to feel celebrated despite all of these systems and these things thrown at us? And like, that was such a fun time in my organizing between the years of like 2015 to like 2019. I was in my young 20s, and it was just like really exciting to be celebrated and like be held in arms with many different women of color, unafraid to like put themselves in their work. And stand behind that. And so Virago was a special time.
Oh, that's really beautiful. And you can see too, and I've only seen like maybe 5 minutes of it, and I'm just like, this is so beautifully crafted.
Well, thank you.
And like the colors were so fun.
Yeah,
and
I really wanted it to articulate like what the experience felt like. I think specifically like documentary work, I think a lot of times we're focused on like, oh, how do we get this amazing thing to sound amazing? But I think a lot what's missed is like how someone holds their hands and like the intimacies of like their stature or like how they take up space in the conversation.
It's okay.
And like all of those things are like the archetype of like someone, right? And it speaks to like how comfortable or uncomfortable they are in that existence.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to like tackle gender identity in this way that was multiplicitous as the art.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay. What's up next?
What's up next? We have the queen of science fiction, Octavia Butler.
Yes.
There's never enough words to talk about Octavia Butler. Yeah. But this series in particular, which I think is probably one of the most prized, which is the Parable series. You have the first book, which is Parable the Sower, and the second, oh my God, I'm so terrible at hitting this mic, Parable of the Talents. And we never got the third, unfortunately, even though it was in the works, which is really sad. But the series is really kind of like states a claim for what it is to be, again, in right relationship with the land. There's this community of Earthseed, which is basically a community going through the worst of times, going through a dystopian event, and how people come together or not in the midst of that, how different types of people fall into different traps based off of like their positionality in the world, what they're afraid of. And it really is like a guidebook to how to organize with inconvenient people. Because thinking about apocalyptic or a dystopian event, you're not in control of a lot of your surroundings. And so what does it mean to be an organizer for however many years, or to be a school teacher for however many years, and then to be dropped into this position where the only people you have, your community, are the people that are next to you, who happen to be next to you. And I think she's a prophet. So many things that happen in between the first and second book speak to like where we're at now. Specifically last year, thinking about Altadena, which is where she's from, and the fires, and like the second book, Parable of the Talent, talking about these fires raging, and like there's just so many crazy coincidences that she wrote in these books, and these were written like decades ago, right? And I think she's really good at like sitting you in uncomfortable and then showing you that you still have so much further to go, right? Like we can't get complacent in like the things that are fighting to attack us. We have to keep moving. Like death is so matter of fact in this series, which I think is really important in the context of thinking about revolution. And yeah, I don't know. I love the genre of speculative fiction because of all of the range that we're speaking to right now. It's so dynamic. And like, I think a lot of it is just like, how do we deal with the change? Like death is a change, right? And how do you deal with that? And she really like holds the reader's hand through that process. As a matter of fact, as she is with death, like you are really going through this journey with the characters. And like, I don't know, I read these books at so many different points. So I've read both of them probably 3 times each.
Whoa.
And so like another book where like when you reread it again, you're often reoriented back to self, to right relationship with the land, and to like those very simple principles of who are your people, and like basically where are you going, what are you doing. But yeah,
wow,
this series is insane.
Yeah, I
it's unmissable.
Have not read these yet. I am
welcome. You were about to go on a journey.
We talked about this. I'm just like, I am not much of a fiction reader. And if I do read fiction, it's like in graphic novel form. And so But you're making me want to read it because I think you're right. It is very relatable to current times too. Because I think we were talking about it when we were picking this series of like the white Christian nationalists, the how much harm it's causing and has caused over the years, and like I think right now it's particularly heavy because of the case of like Nolan Wells, right? And yeah, do you want to speak a little bit more on that and how like it is kind of related in this time too?
Yeah, I mean,
and you found a page earlier, like you came across a page. Is this the book or this one?
So this is the first book. But the second book, I did come across a page in that one as well. But specifically this one, and speaking to what you just brought up, like throughout both of the books, she has these small parables, right? And this one says, there is no end to what a living world will demand of you. Like, I had a really prominent conversation with my father last year. My father's Haitian, and so that's where my Haitian ancestry come from. I'm first generation. And he asked me a very simple question, like, what is your role in society? What is your duty? And how are you every day fulfilling that role? Which I think speaks to like what I just read. Like, there's no being able to live in the world and not giving anything back to it, not being in relationship to it.
Yeah.
And particularly like with these situations and like the second book, which Parable of the Talents, is where she kind of gets into the white nationalism and like even down to like it's so prophetic. The president at the time is talking about making America great again. Like, you cannot write that.
Yeah.
Like, but she wrote that
And
like
this was
so long ago,
decades ago?
decades ago. And so I think it just really speaks to like some of these systems that we're fighting are just so simple in the context of like our like freedom. The fight for freedom is a constant struggle. Back to like Angela Davis, like your rights are things that you have to show up for. Like, you have a duty to like fight for them. And if you're not doing that, then times get scary, right? Like, like now, you know, I think so many people are like feeling called into the arms of like art organizing, feeling called into the arms of activism. People are lonely. People are like isolated.
Yeah.
People are like trying to cling to third spaces because it's scary. Right?
It's scary and it can feel even more isolating, and like that's the point. And I love that you're talking about your like the role in society. How did you answer that question?
Oh my God, I was so stumped. One in particular, like my dad lives in New York. I live here.
Yeah.
My dad speaks Creole. I don't speak Creole. And I think coming into like my older age, as I'm in my 30s now. I turned 30 recently. And like,
welcome.
So we're just having just much more demanding conversations of each other. And I think it just like, it came as a shock to the system. One in particular, because I know he pays attention to what I do. And so he was speaking to that. And two, because I was getting to know a side of him that when I was younger, I didn't get to know as deeply. My dad is an organizer. He has a podcast as well. Wow. It's all in Creole. He has been a translator. He has done many roles. He's helped in many facets that I don't need to speak to fluently because of, you know, all of the things. And so, yeah, I think it's powerful to be asked that question from like your parent, right? But I think it's also like, damn, I have to be excruciating honest here because this is my parent, right? And then the pressure to like, you know, meet expectations what comes with parenthood, specifically like a child of the diaspora, right? So like I was really like, I was stuck, but I felt like so empowered after that conversation. And I think the more we can have those conversations intergenerationally, the more I think we're getting closer to like reimagining these radical possibilities for ourselves.
Yeah.
But it just felt really good to also know that in that moment he was asking me because he knows it matters to me. And that we have so much work to do. You know?
Absolutely. And I think like and it's beautiful that your parent asked you that. Like my family would never have that conversation. But I've had mentors ask me that question. And one tool that I am constantly going back to, I don't know if you're familiar, is the Social Change Ecosystem by Deepa Iyer, where it literally maps out the different roles that you can play within social change. And I think what's interesting too is that your role changes as well. Like as you go on to your community organizing, like, or even just being a human, it's going to change throughout your life.
Yeah. I think I would like, I think it's just as important as the questions we were talking about earlier of like, who are your people and like, what are you doing? I think asking yourself that question repeatedly is necessary. Like you say, your roles will change. They should be changing. Like, you shouldn't be doing the same thing. I kind of have like my own, this is more so like my own like self-politic. Every 2 years I focus on a different discipline. Because I think for me, being a wanderlust, but also in the sense of like making sure that I'm operating at my fullest capacity and like not being stuck in one place and not growing and not evolving and not meeting new community and not being a part of new conversations. When you really like establish like, okay, no, this is something I'm going to commit to. I'm going to deep dive into this hobby or profession, whatever you choose it to be. You really get to like have a true relationship to that thing and grow from it. And then move on to the next thing, do something else, meet some new people, grow in new ways.
That's really radical. I love that. Yeah, I like that a lot. Every 2 years, a new discipline.
Yes.
That's great. Because then, like, you also give yourself that year to enjoy it and, like, be in the hobby or the profession or whatever it is. But then you also can have a year to, like, kind of perfect it a little bit. And then you're like, okay,
I feel like it's a nice sweet spot.
Yeah.
And then you can decide if you want that to be a forever thing or not, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's just, it's been exciting for me.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of your dad, too.
Yes. Perfect timing. The Common Wind, African American Currents in the Age of Haitian Revolution by Julius S. Scott. Julius S. Scott was a professor at the University of Michigan. He came across this research and actually like wanted to publish it over 30 years ago, and it wasn't. And so, I think reading this, I read this twice. The first time, I think I just was like astounded with all the information he was able to recover, particularly the depth and breadth of how Haitian Revolution was possible, but also how inter-island revolution was able to happen because of the closeness of the islands and because of boat people and because of being able to travel from one place to the next. And like all of the passageways and the communications and things that come from that created the revolution that was possible in Haiti. And so I think just as we talk about, it's impossible to talk about Black radicalism. It's impossible to talk about Black radicalism and not mention Haiti. It's also impossible to not talk about Black radicalism and not mention Black Americans and not mention Jamaicans, Venezuelans, Cuba.
Yes.
Like all of these countries and like all of the Americas together are representative of what's possible for Black liberation and Black radicalism. And that couldn't be more expressed in the Haitian Revolution. And so... Absolutely. Yeah, it's just, there's so many lessons in this book about how smart and like intelligent and like well adaptable we are as people, how we're able to like make a way out of no way, which I think is a big proponent in many of the books we've already previously discussed. And if you're ever curious about like what it means to be in Black radical like collaborative arms with people who are next to you and afar, like this is a book to really digest and like really learn something from. And it also goes back to like even, you know, indigenous folks, like thinking about the ways of being in right relationship with the land meant that like if you're by water, you can navigate the sea, like just all these things that like helped to free them in so many ways because they were able to pass messages. They were able to get creative. There was a arts movement in the sense they were making flyers and posters and talking about the excitement of revolution before it was possible was a big component of how it was able to actually happen. There were so many like laws that were like made because Caribbean folks, Black folks were just talking about being free before they were free. And so like the role of the trickster is almost a part of this as well, in the sense of like, we're going to speak about freedom as though it's already here, right? And like, that's how you have to move as an organizer. We have to think about freedom before it's here. We have to know that like, it's going to happen before it happens. We have to see the end before the end is here. And so all of those things made the Haitian Revolution possible. And like, it's just so exciting to like really get to the nitty gritty of like what that looked like. And also just remember, it's not just about this one country being free. It's about how this one country got free. And through that process, before and after, there were many Black revolts. And like how all of those things contribute to like true liberation.
I think I found my next read.
It's excellent.
Sure.
It's so good. It is like... this is a gym.
Yeah.
And also, like, Ann Arbor is so close to Detroit. Like, again, we keep talking about these places coming back to Detroit, coming back to, like, these connections between highly densely populated Black places. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel so privileged being from the city of Detroit. And also having my Haitian ancestry. Like, I think you can't talk about one without the other, for me personally. And so
that's
you got to read this book.
I absolutely want to. And like, it comes to mind for some reason. I was thinking a lot about how we are currently in a revolution, right? And a lot of people are not saying that we are. And that's fine. Like, everyone has a different analysis of it. Everyone has a different feeling. But for me, I'm like, oh, but we're already here. We're already in it. Everyday choices that we're making is contributing to it or not. And yeah, like, that's why this podcast exists. Because we need to like, we need to be able to talk about it like it's here. Like, we're already doing it and we're already winning, you know? Absolutely. Oh, this is yours too. Sorry. I almost grabbed it like I was going to talk about it, but
that's okay. Tony K. Bambara. Yeah. Legendary organizer, the Salt Eaters. This is a mushroom trip book. Like, I did not enjoy this book when I read this book.
That's so real.
At all. Like, I was really not having a good time reading this. And I think that is really the point of the book.
Yeah.
Basically, the plot or the weight of the book is, how do we sit in the messiness of ourselves, of each other, with each other? Like, how are we inconvenient people to each other? And, like, why is that important in the context of, like, why we're fighting and what we're fighting for? I think the most prominent component of this book and the most gripping reality in this book is she asks the organizer. Basically, so the book focuses on one woman organizer who is basically at the start of this book and throughout the book within one room, which is a hospital room, and she's going through a mental unstable time, and the entire community is in that room with her.
Whoa.
Over 20, 30 people are in the room with her. And so that uncomfortableness, being able to sit on the uncomfortable with your people in your community, I think is a big part of organizing a lot of us miss. And it contributes to, like, how unwell we are in our facilities and how unwell we move around. We're talking about, like, earlier, the balance of rest and play. And, like, she asked the question, do you really want to be well? Can you afford to be well? And I think that's such an important question. It challenges some of our most vulnerable suits, which are struggle, freedom, and love, like, to make sure that that work is collaborative work, not just, like, fighting for other people, but fighting beside other people.
Yeah.
And, like, what does it mean to, like, have a collaborative wellness project with the people that you're, like, to be in collaborative wellness with each other, which I think is one of the most radical things to, like, kind of, like, show an organizer or to, like, mushroom trip organizer into being like, are you burnt out? You're probably burnt out. And, like, what are you doing about it? Like, how are you maintaining your fight and your joy and your freedom and your rest and your hope? Like, how are all these things in conversation, and how are we sharing that workload collaboratively? Yeah, this book is iconic. Tony K. Bambara is iconic. A lot of the book references very, it's a fiction book, but it references very literal things that she went through. Particularly her organizing in Philadelphia with other women. And so, yeah, you got to read this book. And definitely, I think, if you don't read this book with other people, you're missing the point of the book, right? And so we read this in the People's Book Club, which was exciting and also very challenging.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Because you said it's, like, written in a certain way where it's kind of, like, disjointed.
It's very disjointed, and it's like, again, it's like you're on a mushroom trip. So it's a little bit of piecemeal here and there. It goes in and out of, like, different timelines and different stories and different people. And yeah.
Do you feel like, and you mentioned the People's Book Club, which I'd love for you to talk about as well. How are you embracing, like, collaborative wellness in your work?
For me, so I started the People's Book Club in 2017, and it really was a collaborative project in that so it was hosted at Room Project, which is no longer here. It closed in 2024, I believe. And it was a writer's space for women, non-binary, people in the city of Detroit to like go have workshops, to be in community with other writers and thinkers and artists and organizers. And so that book club was very much comprised of many different types of people. Particularly for me, I think this was maybe one of the one co-ed events or clubs they had a part of Room Project.
Okay.
And so working collaboratively for me means like meeting people where they're at. And so we met every week. Everybody had their own role. Those roles shifted. And also I think it got really deep, like to a point where I had to bring a therapist into the book club because we were holding each other's hands that like, you know, gracefully, but also just like it had gotten that intense where it was like, okay, there's a clear need in this space that beyond these books we're reading, people are feeling impacted. And like, how do we show up together and have a group therapy session? And so I think that was really profound and challenging work for me, particularly. I was really young doing all of this. But I think it just really taught me that like, you got to sit in the messy stuff with each other. I started the book club for like somewhat selfish reasons. Like I really wanted to be able to discuss these like broader topics with like intimate community. And like really have a place to talk about these like broader systems in a non-biased space. But then it just really became this place where we could like hold each other's hands, which I think is like, why do we do the work to begin with?
That is really profound too, and like not even just hold each other's hands, but like hold each other, and like it does sound like it is a collaboration of wellness surrounded by books. I like that. That sounds like a good space to be in. So the next one we have is Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis. This is one of my favorite books. I think this book, it essentially discusses liberation struggles like across the world. And I think Dr. Davis does a great job of like connecting struggles between the United States, especially the Black Lives Matter movement, to all the way to Palestine, and then other places as well. And I think what I get from this book is, and it's focused a lot on like prison abolition too. And that's Dr. Davis's like main thing is abolitionism. But I think what I'm getting from it is like the only way to liberation is through solidarity. And even when I was reading this yesterday, I came across like the way that she ends the book is literally calling people onto like, do you want to get free? And like calling people across the world, like, do you want to get free? And if this is the case, we will have to do something quite extraordinary. We'll have to go to great lengths. We cannot go on as usual. We cannot pivot the center. We cannot be moderate. We will have to be willing to stand up and say no with our combined spirits, our collective intellects, and our many bodies. And I think like she's like tying it back to the beginning of this episode when I can't remember what book you were talking about, but maybe it was Nikki Giovanni, but it was just like, you have to stand in like what you believe in and you can't be moderate about it.
Yeah, no, freedom is a conscious struggle. I think it's just like a life politic.
Yeah.
I think the work of an organizer is to struggle beside someone. And so I think what an amazing title for her to give a book that like really kind of like introduces you to who Angela Davis is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you like what would be a radical life, right? Like, so this is a question I ask everyone is like, what does it mean to live a radical life? And so thinking about, so for all of the books before we get to number one, what does it mean to you?
I think a radical life is confronting the things that make you uncomfortable, alone and with other people, making quiet and loud rejections a part of your daily routine, being able to know like your community and know your people. Like if someone asks you like who are your people, you should have that at the forefront of your mind. Also like just contributing to something that like involves more than your own determination, right? Like I think being able to like be in practice of like not just self-determination but the collaborative determination. Speaking back to Tony Caban, like sitting in the mess with other people, caring about the environment, caring about the systems that support our life and like the sustainability of the world and people, like being in right relationship to the land and being a good ancestor, doing things that make you stretch stretch your capacity, learning what your capacity is. Like all those things contribute to like being radical, and having radical practices and beliefs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes. And I can't remember who is talking about our number one. Do you want to talk about Asada? Or do you want me to?
I feel like we both talk about Asada.
We
This
can both
book,
talk about
man.
Asada. This book.
This book is, man.
I just read this. I just read Asada in Cuba, actually, when I was there for 2 weeks. And yeah, it was talk about profound.
That's really profound.
I cried a lot.
Yeah, this book was a lot. I mean, most of these books you will cry in. I don't think you confront anything radical without being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So prepare all of your tears, you know.
Oh, that's
Get in a nice, cozy spot.
Yeah.
Make sure you're with some other people. I think you can't read these books without being next to other people. Yeah, Asada. So much of what she went through, I think, mirrors this experience of like being in America. Obviously her context being a Black woman and navigating all of those things, but just like having to navigate so many systems and like trying to orient your brain to like who you will become. Like she starts the book really young, talking about her adolescence all the way up into she's eventually free in Cuba. And I think I really love just like kind of how it just leaves you like there without knowing how she's navigating Cuba. Just like the fact that she's just in freedom, really leaves the reader to imagine like what's possible next, which is another gift the book gives you. It's just, this book is just so great. But yeah, no, Asada, freedom fighter, did amazing work with the Black Panther Party, was persecuted by the government multiple times, many times, was abused, tortured, went through hell and back, gave birth to a child behind bars, which is with a lover of her choosing, which is so profound. And like, what? There's just so many components to this. And I think when we talk about organizing, we don't speak and we don't move in organizing without quoting Asada. Like, it is a duty to fight for your freedom, is a duty to win. Yep. Like, this is like a staple in like how we continue to move, the chants that move us, the work that like calls us together. Yeah. The things that make us look at each other and see each other and face each other and be collaborative. So much of like an organizer's just like life kind of revolves around like a lot of the work she did, and continues to do through us. I've read this book multiple times, and another book that reorients you every time you read it. Yeah. Yeah, we also lost her recently, which I think was hard for a lot of people to like grapple with, specifically around the time that she passed. And yeah, I could say so much about this book, but it also could get me really emotional.
No, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Like, man.
Exactly. I think too, like, I was reading this book and I was just thinking a lot about those comrades that are being persecuted by the government now.
Oh yeah.
And
we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, like the U of M 8 and like the Prairie Land 9, right? And I hear it a lot that activists are scared, or like people that may have been interested in activism are like stepping back, or they're not diving in, or they're too afraid. They're just like very afraid, and like that's the point of suppression, right? Yeah. It's like terror, and to make you afraid. But I don't know. When I read this book, I was like, there's no fear. This has been happening since the beginning of time. Like, all Asada was doing was feeding kids. She was literally feeding children, and the government painted her as like a common criminal. And I think it doesn't matter like what you do, in the sense of like activism, like you can feed children and you still could be persecuted by the I forgot what Lauren says exactly on one of our episodes, but like he says it's like the strongest, most evil empire in the world, right? And so, yeah, I think she is a good radical reminder of like, this has been happening since the beginning of time and we cannot quit.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely, I think, is a big just motivation for a lot of the work that I do, and particularly, and like, you can't talk about anything radical without talking about Asada. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing with me. I have one question for you too. Speaking of radical reminder, to get out of your comfort zone, we like to give listeners some action items at the end of our episodes. What radical action would you suggest listeners take after listening to this?
Yeah, go read some books with other people.
Mm.
Go
Yes.
read some books with other people.
Yes.
Ask yourself questions. Ask each other questions. Find a common issue. Organize around it. Go write some things, right? Go steal back 30 minutes of your day each day and do something creative. Do something to liberate your mind from the shackles of capitalism, imperialism, fascism. Be in control, right? With other people. Like you have that ability. Like I know that sounds privileged in certain aspects of positionality, but you have to steal back your time. We have to steal back our time. And so, yeah, I would just urge us all to like, not just think of reading as like a chore or like political education, but think of it as a way to continually be in better relationship with yourself and each other. And like really just sharpen in your imagination. There's so many worlds and people and stories and lessons that we have yet to come across. And all of these things will be with us throughout life. So like, why are we running away from that work? Right? You evolve or you die. It's that simple.
Beautiful. Thank you, Fran. Thank you for being here.
Me.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so thank you if you are listening on Blue Moon Radio today. Thank you to all of my comrades that helped pull this episode together. I do want to remind you to like this episode, to share it out, and talk about it at your local bookstore. Please do not buy any of these books from the website that we will not name on this podcast. I actually wrote out a list of like local bookstores in Detroit that you could go to. Pages, Howard Family Bookstore, 27th Letter, Book Suey, Book Beat, Source Booksellers, Underground Railroad Reading, and John King. You could go to any of those. There's so many. Just find your local bookstore and talk about books with some cool people. And remember, the revolution is not always televised, but it's likely in your own backyard and definitely within yourself.